Over the last few years, our family has been to 17 countries in Europe alone. And a conversation that comes up here at our house pretty often is, if we were to move to Europe full time and live in one place, what would that one place be? That's something we discuss amongst my wife and I, and with our kids, like to get everybody's input on where they would want to live in Europe if we were to live in one spot. So in this video, I'm going to give you the top 5 places that we would choose to move if we were going to be settling down in one place in Europe. Before I get started in that, I do want to say this isn't a completely exhaustive list. Obviously, we have not been to every country in Europe, so I can't say that I've seen it all. We haven't been to every town and in the countries that we have been to. But from what we've seen, this is just our opinion. And for you, if you were considering moving over there, there'd be a lot of things that you'd have to look at, like the tax rate, cost of healthcare, cost of living, the lifestyle, things like that that you'd want to consider to be more specific for your case. But for us, these are the top 5, so here we go. Coming in at number 5 is Amsterdam. So we went to the Netherlands and we went to Amsterdam while we were there a good bit. Loved it, absolutely loved being in Amsterdam. Lots of cool things there. I think Amsterdam gets a kind of a bad rap because of the whole red light district and the legalized drugs that we don't have here in America and stuff. But I want to say that if you haven't been there, don't let that define Amsterdam for you. We were there, we wandered all around the city. We weren't trying to avoid the red light district, and we weren't looking for the red light district either, but we never saw it. We never even came across it. So there's an entire city there that you wander around, and it just feels like any other European city. It's just a great vibe. It's historic, it's beautiful. The canals that they have in kind of concentric circles through the city is really cool. They've got great transportation there. Lots of things to do outside. When we were there, it was wintertime, and it was cold, it was gray, it was raining a lot of the time, not the entire time, but for a lot of the time. And so that kind of did hamper us getting out and seeing some things. So we would like to go back there and see a little bit more, but there's excellent museums there. We were able to ice skate, stroll around, see the city. The transportation, like I mentioned, they've got great tram systems there inside the city and then great train connections outside the city. When you're in, whether it's Amsterdam or another city nearby, you can ride a bike everywhere. Everybody there rides bikes. That's a huge thing there. They have entire parking garages just for bicycles. Like, it's a big, big deal. So it's a very bike friendly kind of place. Kind of encourages you to get outside. We also liked that they had great grocery stores, everything that we needed. People were very friendly. Food was amazing. I love Asian food. And in Amsterdam, or in the Netherlands in general, they have a lot of Asian food, and that kind of harkens back to the days when the Dutch were exploring the Orient, and they kind of brought back a lot of that food and cuisine with them. And so there's a big Asian food scene there in Amsterdam that's really, really good. You definitely have to go and check that out. I think for us, the biggest reason this comes in at number 5 and not number 1 is just due to the climate there. It is beautiful a lot of the time, and we want to go back during the spring and summer and see that. But we were there in the wintertime, and they do have a pretty long winter. It's pretty far north as far as the mainland of Europe goes. So it definitely does get very cold. It gets so cold that the canals freeze over and people ice skate in them. So that's something to consider if you're not a big fan of the cold and gray weather that you're going to get for several months' time throughout the winter, then this might not be the spot for you. Aside from that, Amsterdam is a great place to go. So at number 4, I've put Switzerland here. Switzerland is very similar to Amsterdam in that everything that I said about the two are really true. Switzerland has some great things to offer. It's got museums, it's got cities, it has outdoor landscapes that are beautiful. It's one of those places, it's honestly probably the most beautiful country we've ever been to, and a lot of people say it's the most beautiful in the world. I don't doubt it at all. Everywhere you look when you're there, you look over here, you look over here, you look up, you look down, it's a postcard view everywhere. It is just an absolutely beautiful country. There's a lot to do there, especially outdoor activities if you're into hiking or skiing, paragliding. I went paragliding when I was there. Absolutely love that experience. It's a beautiful country, lots of great people, great food. The downside of it for us is the climate is also like it would be in Amsterdam. It's nice in the summertime and it's nice in the springtime. However, once you get fall, winter, it's going to be very gray, lots of snow. And if you're there for snow sports, then that's great for you, but it's going to be very cold, very snowy, very wet throughout the winter. So that's kind of a downside for us. Also, it is a very expensive place to be. When you're in Switzerland, you spend a lot of money fast. Like it is probably one of the most expensive places you can go to in Europe, especially. So that's a tough one. Unless you're going there with a lot of disposable income, you're going to run through your money very fast if you're trying to live there. So definitely keep that one in mind. Number 3 is one that not a lot of people have heard of, much less been to. It is Montenegro. Now, my wife and I, we each have a number 1 that we would agree to moving to, and then we each have kind of like our next runner-up or a very close second. For my wife, Montenegro is her very close second. She would love to be in Montenegro. It's a beautiful country. We haven't seen all of the inland. We were mostly on the shore side of it. But we were there in the Bay of Kotor area. We actually stayed in Kotor. It's a beautiful small town. Everything's kind of easy to get to. There's sort of one road that runs around the bay, couple little streets inside the city, but then once you get outside of that, you kind of have to like climb up these switchbacks to get out and into the rest of the country. It's very much in a deep bowl down there right by the water, but the water's blue. It's gorgeous. It's a great country. They had great restaurants and food, great grocery stores. The people were friendly. It was a fun place to be. It was cold when we were there because it was wintertime, but it was a great place, and I would love to go back there in the summertime when we can swim in the bay and see everything else that the country has to offer more inland. But when we were there, it was nice. There are great roads that will connect you right over to Croatia. That's just a day trip over. We took a day trip over to Dubrovnik, Croatia when we were there. Lots of things to do. An international airport is maybe, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes or something like that up the road, so you could get to anywhere that you needed to be. It's definitely one that we would consider as our backup for sure. Now the number 2 spot, this one is my second runner-up, and it is Greece. I absolutely love Greece. I love being in Athens. I love looking at the Parthenon. There's something about it that calls to me. If you've ever talked to me before, you know that I've said that I feel like maybe I was Greek in a past life or something, because just something about Greece just calls to me. I love being there. I love seeing the stuff. It's all very, very old. There's so much history, so much to do. The people are great. Everyone there is super friendly. The food is amazing. Lots of great grocery stores, but just the food in general, the cuisine, that Mediterranean cuisine is just healthy and fresh and good. It's just a fun place to be. Everywhere you go, you feel like everybody's just they're just vibing. It's like a party. Everybody's happy. All the locals are happy to see you. It's just a great place to be. So we love Greece. From Greece, you do have some pretty good connections as far as being able to go out to the Cycladic Islands. You can go out to Mykonos or Santorini, Paros, all those places. And then you can also get over to Crete. You could get anywhere else in Europe you wanted to go, Italy or wherever. There's great connections as far as land and sea and air that you can get in and out of the country. So that one's really good. One downside about Greece is the highway system. They do have a great highway system, but you're going to get stopped. It feels like every 2 miles to pay a toll, and that's not fun. And I'm exaggerating, it's not every 2 miles, but it sure feels like it whenever you're on the highway. You just have to keep stopping and paying and paying and paying the whole way through. So that's not too fun. But aside from that, as long as you stay off the major highways and interstates, it's a really fun country, and that would come in at number 2 for us. But to wrap up this list, at number 1, our favorite place is Italy. It's a lot of people's favorite country to go to. It has one of the largest tourism economies in Europe, and for good reason. There's a lot to offer there. It's a relatively small country. I mean, compared to the US, it's about the size of like the state of Florida or something. It's very similar in size to that, but there's a lot to offer top to bottom there. For us specifically, I think if we were to settle down in one place, it would be Lucca, Italy, which is sort of in the northern side of Italy. It's south of Milan. It is to the west of Florence and to the east of the Cinque Terre. It's in a great spot right there. I feel like you can get around really well. The city has like an old town and a new town. The old town is surrounded by a huge wall, and it's not a huge tall wall, it's a huge wide wall. So across the top of it, it now has trees planted, and it's like a circular park. You can get up there, you can ride your bike, you can walk, you can jog, you can stroll, you can do whatever you want to and see the whole city as you encircle the whole old town. It's really nice. When we were there, we stayed in the old town, and then we would go out whenever we needed to. In the new town, you have lots of grocery stores, you've got car rental agencies, you've got anything else that you could need in a town, but it's just steps away from the old town. So for us, we like the vibe of the old town better. We stayed in there, we were able to walk, we actually walked over the wall and out to get to the train station. From the train station, you've got about a 20-minute train ride down to Pisa. And then from Pisa, you would undoubtedly hop on another train, and you could either head towards the Cinque Terre or you could head towards Florence. If you headed towards Florence, it was maybe a 40-minute ride, if I remember correctly. And then from there, you would take the fast train to anywhere. I mean, you could go straight up to Venice or straight down to Rome or wherever you needed to get to. They would have all the connections right there in Florence. So Lucca was a great place. It had a small town feel. It had great food, great people, great amenities that were there that we would need for our lifestyle, and then great train connections, public transport connections to be able to get you anywhere that you needed to go. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. Have you ever been to Europe? If you have you ever thought about moving to Europe? And undoubtedly you probably have at some point or another. If you were, where would it be? Drop it in the comment below. Let me know where and why that's the place that you would choose to move your family to in Europe.